Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller TV series named Chucky Season 1. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The drama begins with a reserved boy named Jake who loves eerie Barbie dolls. During a rummage sale, he discovers an old doll and is immediately captivated. The doll is quite worn and its price is low. As Jake leaves, a woman notices that a knife is missing from a nearby rack. Jake has no idea that taking this doll will completely change his life. Jake returns home and heads straight to his room, which is filled with dolls, creating a rather eerie atmosphere. The dimly lit room and a cat add to the sense of isolation, reflecting Jake's introverted nature. The cat approaches and plays with the new doll. Suddenly, the doll's pupils dilate, and the cat runs its smelly butt away in fear. Jake, wearing gloves, tries to twist off the doll's head. He bought it because he needed a head for one of his assembling projects. Despite his efforts, the head doesn't budge. Jake then tries using a knife. This agitates the doll, which starts moving its fingers, preparing to fight back. Just then, Jake's dad comes home. The doll stops, saying he's Chucky, pretending to be a speaking doll. Jake's father disapproves of his doll collection, seeing it as a waste of time. He believes Jake should be making friends instead of staying in his dark room, chasing artistic dreams. Adding to Jake's woes, his art camp is canceled due to financial difficulties. That evening, his annoying cousin's family comes over for dinner, much to Jake's dismay. That night, the cousin's family arrives as planned. The economic disparity between the two families leads to some awkward moments. Jake's uncle, a businessman, offers to help financially, but Jake's proud father refuses. The conversation shifts to the children. Jake's cousin Junior is an outstanding student and a top member of the Boy Scouts. Junior makes a snide remark about the Boy Scouts now accepting gay members, which makes Jake's father visibly uncomfortable. Junior's family continues to mock Jake's interests and orientation, pushing Jake's father to the point of smashing his wine glass in anger. The room falls silent, and everyone awkwardly resumes eating. Junior's mother excuses herself to the bathroom, but sneaks into Jake's room to call her lover. She feels a presence watching her and slowly opens the closet door to find Jake's new doll, Chucky, staring back at her. After the dinner, Jake uses a friendly international gesture to bid farewell to his cousin's family. Suddenly, he hears a crashing sound from his room. Enraged, his father is smashing Jake's dolls and forbids him from playing with them anymore. Jake looks at the wreckage, unable to express his sorrow. He doesn't dare to resist and silently bears his grief. Chucky, the cunning Barbie doll, had somehow ended up under the bed. It was the only surviving doll Jake had. Beside it, he found a tuft of cat fur stained with blood. An ominous feeling washed over him. The next day, Jake decided to follow his father's advice and give up his hobby. He prepared to sell the only intact doll, Chucky, online. Discovering that Chucky could fetch over $1,000, Jake was secretly thrilled. It seemed he had found the money for summer camp. As he boarded the school bus with the doll, everyone laughed at him except for a quiet boy, Devin, who was reading a book and didn't show any disdain. At school, a classmate asked Jake to introduce them to his girly cousin, Junior. Coincidentally, Junior was nearby and bluntly said he had no interest in meeting male classmates since he already had a girlfriend, Lexi. Hearing that Jake was selling Chucky, Lexi feigned sympathy but was actually mocking Jake. The more Jake tried to avoid conflict, the more she taunted him. Fortunately, the bell rang, saving Jake from further humiliation. During biology class, Jake was too afraid of blood to dissect a frog, which drew more ridicule from his classmates. When he finally made an attempt, he became so nervous that he started dry heaving. Turning around, he saw the frog dismembered into a grotesque art piece, which left the teacher stunned. Suddenly, laughter erupted from behind him. Everyone except Devin was enjoying Jake's misery. Lexi had posted photos of Jake and Chucky online, framing it as a charity plea. One classmate even handed Jake a coin, and another knocked him to the ground after class. Jake said nothing since he was accustomed to such humiliation. Unable to fit Chucky in his locker, Jake left the doll with the teacher. The teacher kept Lexi after class, urging her to take down the crowdfunding page. Lexi, however, arrogantly refused, mocking the teacher for being just a high school teacher. Losing patience, the teacher decided to keep her after school as punishment. Lexi, relying on her family's influence, threatened to sue the school. Faced with such blatant threats, the teacher decided to speak with the administration. Unbeknownst to Lexi, someone else was in the classroom. While she was touching up her makeup, Chucky jumped off the dissection table, laughing sinisterly. Terrified, she dropped her phone and froze, with chills sent down through her spine to her smelly butt. Luckily, the teacher returned with an administrator just in time. Believing she had hallucinated due to drugs, the girl quickly agreed to take down the webpage and left in a hurry. The teacher then locked Chucky in a storage closet before leaving. Meanwhile, Devin approached Jake, having noticed that Jake had been following his blog. He invited Jake to join his team for a project on school bullying. Initially, Jake was interested, but when Devin spoke positively about Junior, their conversation ended on a sour note. Junior, watching them, seemed deep in thought. That night, someone called about the Chucky auction. After learning some details, the caller didn't make an offer, but instead warned Jake to be careful with Chucky and advised him to check the doll's batteries. Jake was puzzled, but before he could ask more, the man hung up. Feeling uneasy, Jake began researching Chucky online. To his horror, he found numerous murder cases linked to the doll. The next day, he intended to tell his father, but Chucky had somehow found its way back home, occasionally emitting phrases. Horrified, Jake grabbed Chucky and, following the phone advice, ripped open the doll's clothes, only to find there were no batteries inside. Terrified, he threw the doll into the trash bin outside. It seemed the ordeal was finally over. On this day, the school was hosting an arts festival. After Devin finished playing a piano piece, Lexi, acting as the host, once again brought up Jake, publicly humiliating him. Just as Jake was at a loss, a voice accused Lexi of picking on the weak. Jake slowly turned around to find Chucky sitting right behind him. Chucky urged Jake to take him on stage. Everyone assumed Chucky's talking was part of Jake's act, as such performances were not uncommon. Chucky then produced Lexi's phone, which she had dropped in the dissection room. Seeing this, Lexi tried to snatch it back but was scared off by Chucky's sinister expression, drawing laughter from the audience. Chucky began revealing secrets from the phone, including inappropriate photos and selfies of other male classmates. Junior's face froze in shock. The search history, including "Why does my fart smell so good?" had the audience in stitches. The proud Lexi broke down and stormed off stage in a frenzy, taking her phone with her. While Jake got some satisfaction, the consequences were severe. He was suspended from school. Jake's dad was furious, unable to understand why his son had become such a target. Jake was unable to suppress his frustration any longer, so he lashed out, accusing his father of not wanting to hear others call him gay. This word was his father's trigger, and in his rage, he hit Jake. Returning to his room, Jake remembered that Chucky was still outside, but his father's anger made him too scared to approach. He sat on his bed, sobbing helplessly. Downstairs, his father discovered his bottle of liquor had been drained dry. Suddenly, the power went out, plunging the house into darkness. When his father reset the circuit breaker, he saw Chucky, who should have been in the living room, staring menacingly at him. Chucky then unleashed a torrent of water onto the floor, causing Jake's dad to be electrocuted on the spot. As he writhed in agony, Chucky's face twisted into a cruel, evil smile. When Jake arrived, he found his father's lifeless body. The police soon arrived and mentioned a theft at school the previous day, with Chucky being the only item missing. Naturally, they suspected Jake, but since it was his doll, it technically wasn't theft. Jake's uncle then arrived to take him in, and with no evidence, his father's death was ruled an accidental electrocution. Moving in with his uncle, Jake shut the door under Junior's ambiguous gaze and began speaking with Chucky. Chucky openly admitted to killing Jake's father. Jake finally realized that this doll was indeed a serial killer. Terrified and confused, Jake didn't know what to do. Chucky then pulled a knife from his pocket and with a sinister grin, invited Jake to discuss Lexi. The scene shifts back to 1965 when Chucky was still a child. His twisted bloodlust was innate from a young age. On Halloween, he received a bag full of candy, including an apple embedded with a razor blade. Realizing the blade's sharpness, Chucky bit into it without hesitation, filling his mouth with blood but seemingly unfazed. Fast forward to this year's Halloween. The small town eagerly celebrates the holiday, but every Halloween various accidents occur. This year would be no exception. After his father's death, Jake officially moved in with his uncle. Adjusting to a wealthy lifestyle was challenging for him. He even faced mild mockery from Junior for not knowing how to use a heated seat. Returning to school, Jake was anxious but determined to attend. His uncle, responsible and caring, gave him some lunch money. Jake had become the center of attention at school. His previous outrageous performance and his father's death were widely known. The bully boy who used to bully him had a change of heart and apologized, inviting Jake to a Halloween party that night. Lexi, still arrogant, insulted Jake's deceased father and criticized the bully boy for inviting Jake. Junior didn't speak ill of Jake's father, but remained suspicious that Jake might be involved in his uncle's death. When discussing Halloween costumes, Lexi was secretive, promising a surprise. Devin, empathizing with Jake's loss, reached out to him, having lost his own father at a young age. Due to his behavior at the school celebration, Jake was forbidden from bringing Chucky to school, so Chucky stayed home, secretly watching the maid clean the house. He broke a vase, attracting the maid's attention. Seeing blood on Chucky's face, the maid kindly tried to clean it with water, unaware she was Chucky's next target. Humming a tune, the maid continued her work, checking the knives in the kitchen. Chucky followed, and seizing the moment, pushed her heavy body, causing a fatal injury. He smiled wickedly at his new creation. When Jake and Junior returned home from school, Chucky sneaked upstairs while the boys argued. They soon discovered the maid's lifeless body. The police arrived, noting similarities with other recent accidents involving knives and dishwashers. Given the circumstances, the case seemed like another unfortunate accident. However, 2 accidental deaths in 1 week, with Jake present both times, raised suspicions. Surveillance footage showed no one else entering the house before the boys arrived. Jake barely knew the maid, and Junior, who was raised by her, had no motive and wouldn't cover for Jake. With no evidence, the case remained unresolved. After the police left, Jake angrily confronted Chucky, demanding to know why he killed the maid. Cunning as ever, Chucky denied the accusation, claiming he only kills the guilty and would never deny it if he had done it. Seeing Jake's skepticism, Chucky added that if he were a mindless killer, everyone in the house would be dead by now. He mentioned that he once had a child like Jake and would never harm him. This left Jake speechless, and he chose to temporarily trust Chucky. That evening, Jake's uncle and aunt were analyzing the events. Jake's aunt thought the coincidences were too suspicious and doubted Jake's innocence, but his uncle disagreed. He had known Jake since he was a child and couldn't believe he would do such a thing. Junior overheard their conversation. When Jake wasn't around, Junior sneaked into his room and found his girlfriend's blog open on the computer. Curious, he didn't notice Chucky staring intently at him. When Jake returned, Junior warned him to stay away from Lexi. Despite Jake's protests that he hadn't opened the blog, Junior didn't believe his bullshit. Jake shut the door and confronted Chucky only to get hit. Junior heard the commotion outside and found it odd. Meanwhile, at the mayor's residence, the mayor and her husband were preparing for a costume party. Lexi, their daughter, had a younger sister, Caroline, who had become fascinated with Chucky since his last performance. That day, Caroline even drew a picture of him from memory. Her parents praised her skills but were indifferent to Lexi. Since she had to watch Caroline, Lexi reluctantly took her to the party. Elsewhere, Devin's mother, who was a police officer, informed him about the maid's death and tried to gather information about Jake's recent behavior. Although Devin and Jake didn't interact much, they had a mutual fondness. Devin, however, knew little about Jake's background. As night fell, excited students headed to the party. Jake, who initially didn't want to go, realized Chucky was missing and guessed he was heading to the party to cause trouble. He rushed to the party to stop Chucky's rampage. Chucky, wearing a Hello Kitty mask, mingled with the crowd looking for a target. He learned the party's location from a kind neighbor and, pretending to be grateful, gave her an apple, certainly not a wholesome gift. At the party, Junior found Lexi smoking in a room and warned her to be wary of Jake. But she, being tipsy, didn't listen. Seizing the intimate atmosphere, Junior made a move. Meanwhile, Jake arrived and met Devin, telling him they needed to find Chucky or Lexi before it was too late. Devin was confused, and the bully boy, trying to help, locked them in a room to give them some hormone yoga privacy. Chucky was playing a bloody game with Caroline, who had a similar murderous potential and wasn't his target. From her, he learned her sister Lexi's location. When Lexi and Junior were about to get intimate and smelly, Chucky hid under the bed, ready to strike. The first stab missed as they moved, and despite his efforts, Lexi kept dodging his attacks. Just as he was about to succeed, the door burst open, scaring them away and leaving Chucky frustrated under the bed. In the room, Devin asked Jake about his odd behavior. Jake felt Chucky's story was too bizarre to explain. Suddenly, he thought he saw Chucky and lunged, only to realize it was a different doll. They were then let out of the room, just in time for Lexi's Halloween performance, which disturbingly reenacted Jake's father's electrocution. The audience laughed, finding it amusing, but Junior was serious and Jake was furious. He stormed off, but remembering he hadn't found Chucky, turned back to the party. Meanwhile, Devin's officer mom received a call from the neighbor, who reported that the apple Chucky had given her contained hidden blades. Bloodied and distressed, the neighbor described Chucky's appearance to her, who listened thoughtfully. Elsewhere, Lexi was trying to take her sister home, but Caroline showed no intention of leaving. Amid the tension, Jake glared at Lexi with resentment. Just then, Chucky appeared behind her holding a knife. Despite his anger, Jake decided to intervene, forcing Chucky to put away the knife. Chucky relented, allowing Jake to take him away, leaving the three girls in stunned silence. That night, in their room, Jake and Chucky had another deep conversation. Chucky continued to tempt Jake, suggesting that some people are destined to die. He compared the world to a battle royale, where only the proactive survive. He insisted that if Jake didn't act against Lexi, she would continue to humiliate him endlessly, causing psychological torment far worse than any physical pain. Chucky handed Jake a knife, asking him to choose between being a hunter or prey. Though Jake was tempted, he hesitated. The memory of Lexi mocking his deceased father at the party, along with the crowd's laughter and years of humiliation, broke his last bit of resistance. Jake sat beside Chucky, took the knife, and his expression slowly turned from confusion to malice. Fueled by anger and Chucky's manipulation, Jake became filled with murderous intent, though his timid nature caused hesitation. He asked Chucky why he killed, unaware of Chucky's innate psychopathic desire to murder. After Halloween, Devon's officer mom sought information about Jake from his biology teacher. The teacher wanted to protect her student and informed Jake about Lexi's mocking video circulating online. The school planned to arrange a meeting with both sets of parents. However, Jake had more pressing matters. His phone pinged with Lexi's location. Grabbing a knife, Jake set out for revenge, only to find Junior jogging instead. Junior cursed and ran off fast like a Tesla bike, having been helping Lexi locate her phone. He had tried to get her to apologize to Jake, but she had flatly refused. Suddenly, Caroline threw a tantrum, demanding Chucky's company. While Jake practiced with his knife, Lexi awkwardly apologized and asked Jake to give Chucky to her. Jake refused, barely containing his desire to kill her. Lexi's haughty attitude further fueled his hatred, but he couldn't bring himself to strike. Chucky, seeing Jake's reluctance, decided to take matters into his own hands. He suggested Jake give him to Lexi, allowing Chucky to carry out the deed himself. Meanwhile, the officer was trying to convince her son Devon to stay away from Jake. She reasoned that wherever Jake was, trouble followed. Even if Jake wasn't the culprit, there was certainly something suspicious about him. However, Devon insisted that Jake was a good person, leaving his mom feeling helpless. Jake, determined to let Chucky handle his revenge, decided to give Chucky to Lexi. Caroline was overjoyed to see her beloved doll and eagerly shared hugs with everyone, including Lexi. Despite her outward excitement, Lexi felt a deep sense of unease. After her parents left, she went to open the door, giving Chucky the perfect opportunity to strike. However, a group of classmates arrived just in time. Lexi had planned a party while her parents were at school. Her crush, the bully boy, had stolen some alcohol, which made Lexi's eyes light up with love, while Junior, feeling jealous, sulked nearby. Devon advised Junior to give up on this wild horse, but Junior shrugged it off. Meanwhile, Jake and Lexi's parents had arrived at the school. Lexi's mother, the mayor, was eager to wrap things up, assuming they were there to discuss Jake teasing her daughter at the school celebration. She claimed she didn't mind. But when the biology teacher showed them the video of Lexi's bullying, Jake's uncle gravely stated that this was mimicking the death of his late brother. The room fell silent. Teen rebellion is one thing, but there are limits. Later that night, Jake visited his parents' graves, feeling lost and unsure of his future. Things were spiraling out of control. As night fell, the party began. Before the fun could start, Lexi needed to put Caroline to bed. After the lights were out, Chucky told Caroline he was going to kill her sister and invited her along. Caroline, too sleepy to care, promptly fell asleep, her mind at ease. Chucky then drew his knife, ready for a night of slaughter. With the party in full swing, everyone wore headphones to enjoy the music. Lexi danced in TikTok style closely with the bully boy, leaving Junior glaring jealously. Lexi, ever the social butterfly, switched partners when the song changed, inviting Junior to dance their hormones away, leaving the bully boy feeling awkward. After the awkward TikTok dance, Lexi realized Caroline was missing and began searching for her. Finding Caroline asleep, she continued looking for Chucky, unaware that he was lying in wait. Chucky's first victim was the bully boy, whom he mistakenly attacked. Realizing his mistake, Chucky decided to finish the job, stabbing the bully boy repeatedly. Despite the bully boy's chicken screams, the music downstairs drowned out any chicken noise. After her fruitless search, Lexi returned to find her sister asleep and hid in her room to smoke. She then noticed a familiar pair of shoes. As she examined them, Chucky crept up behind her and began to strangle her. The cigarette fell, igniting the curtains. Lexi struggled fiercely and managed to break free, only to find the room ablaze. Amidst the flames, Chucky raised his knife and shouted, "He must kill her for Jake!" The fire spread rapidly, but the partygoers downstairs remained oblivious, lost in their music. At the cemetery, Jake seemed to sense something amiss and repeatedly apologized to his parents. He recalled Chucky's story of his first kill. One night, as Chucky was about to sleep, he heard screams outside his room. Investigating, he discovered an escaped murderer who had just killed his father. His mother, in a panic, hid Chucky in a cupboard. When the murderer opened the cupboard, he found Chucky and his dead mother. Impressed by Chucky's reaction, the murderer set Chucky on a killing path of no return. The next day, everyone trapped in the fire was rescued. Aside from the bully boy who was killed and Caroline who was sent to the ICU, there were no other major casualties. When Jake went to visit Caroline, Lexi appeared behind him. Having narrowly escaped death, she had learned Chucky's secret, but amidst the blaze, she lost track of Chucky. Jake realized the danger. If Chucky survived, it would continue hunting her. Under her persistent questioning, Jake blurted out that he had sent Chucky to kill. Furious, Lexi threatened to tell everyone the truth, but Jake warned her that no one would believe her, and those who revealed Chucky's secret met terrible fates. This warning stunned Lexi into silence. The officer mom, questioning the lightly injured Devin, asked if Jake and Chucky were present during the incident. She noted that the bully boy wasn't burned to death, but was stabbed. Devin confirmed that Jake wasn't there, but Chucky was. If the officer mom could push past the limits, she might uncover the truth. Taking advantage of Caroline's checkup, Lexi told her parents that everything was Jake's fault. However, Jake wasn't at the scene, and if she hadn't thrown the party, none of this would have happened, leaving her parents thoroughly disappointed in her. Meanwhile, Devin shared the real cause of the bully boy's death with Jake, asking him to keep it secret. The two remained close friends, their bond unwavering. Tensions in the waiting room were high. Junior and Lexi's parents began blaming each other, even coming to blows. The officer intervened, stopping the fight and informing them of the bully boy's cause of death. She told them the children needed to be questioned. Meanwhile, Lexi quietly left the hospital, determined to take Jake home to check if Chucky had perished in the fire. Junior, a sports prodigy, was sidelined from running for a week due to injuries. The father asked Junior if he truly loved running or was just doing it to please him. Junior reluctantly admitted it was the former, bringing a smile to his father, who missed the look of resignation in Junior's eyes. During a checkup, as Junior was being anesthetized, he thought he saw Chucky's shadow. Elsewhere, Devin, curious after hearing his mother mention Chucky, went online to research the doll. He discovered Chucky's dark legend, showing that after losing his parents, Chucky was fostered in an orphanage. One day, he had an argument with a janitor but took no immediate action. Shortly after, during a wilderness trip with the other orphans, they stumbled upon the janitor's corpse. While two children fled in terror, a chubby boy showed keen interest. Before leaving, Chucky gave the boy a severed hand as a gift and swore him to secrecy about the body. Meanwhile, Jake and Lexi couldn't find Chucky and instead started arguing. Jake vented all his frustrations on her. During the fight, Lexi accidentally fell down the stairs. At that moment, Chucky emerged from the darkness. Half of his face melted from the fire, looking even more sinister. Chucky urged Jake to let go and complete the revenge, but after a moment's thought, Jake decided to save Lexi. Suddenly, a noise came from outside. Chucky had to stop. A police officer sent by Lexi's father arrived to take Chucky to the hospital to accompany the bedridden Caroline. Frightened, Jake and Lexi followed quickly. However, when they arrived at the hospital, the officer locked them in the car and walked away. Devin's mom appeared and took Jake for a private conversation. Lexi rushed to follow but found no sign of Chucky in the hospital room. Instead, she encountered Devin. Devin told her the legend of the killer doll Chucky, and Lexi revealed that it wasn't just a legend. Chucky was among them and had tried to kill her. The police officer had stopped because he bought something on the way to the room. When he finally brought Chucky into the room, Lexi had already left. Seeing no one around, the officer started eating Caroline's food. Chucky, eyeing the surgical tools, was filled with murderous intent. As the officer turned his back, Chucky stabbed his spine, paralyzing him, and then killed him with a syringe. In another room, Devin's mom questioned Jake. All evidence pointed to him, and his doll was present at every crime scene, making him the prime suspect. Just as Jake was about to reveal the truth, Chucky unplugged Caroline's ventilator, setting off alarms. Everyone rushed to the room. After the nurse restored the power, they discovered the dead officer. Another murder had occurred. Jake and Lexi glanced at the table, seeing Chucky grinning and flipping them off. When Caroline woke up and saw the disfigured Chucky, she lost all affection for the doll and asked her father to throw it in the hospital trash. Hearing this, Lexi alerted Jake and Devin. By the time the three arrived to search, Chucky was already gone. The next day, they discussed their plan in the classroom, with Junior watching them in confusion. Lexi decided not to tell Junior the truth just yet. After school, Jake felt guilty looking at the bully boy's locker, but Devin comforted him using his muscles, and they held hands, feeling that love could conquer all. After some light renovations, Lexi's family had mostly restored their home, except for her room. Her mother, learning from past mistakes, forbade her from going out. To cheer up Caroline, her father bought another doll identical to Chucky. Annoyed, Lexi took the doll and smashed it, snapping a photo before leaving in a hurry. Meanwhile, the father excitedly told Junior that he had arranged for him to join the national long-distance running competition once he recovered. However, Junior didn't seem happy. Junior's mother changed the subject, telling Jake to stop playing with his phone during dinner. But Jake had just received a photo of Chucky from Lexi and couldn't ignore it. Junior, seeing the message was from her, grew jealous and started an argument with Jake. The man angrily intervened, leaving the two at odds. Outside, a storm raged. Caroline chatted happily with her new doll, unaware that the real Chucky was watching her from outside. After Caroline fell asleep, her father entered the room and found Chucky lying on the floor, who should have been thrown away. He threw it into the trash again, an action witnessed by Lexi, who quickly notified the others. They rushed over, trapped Chucky in the trash can, and after securing him in a sack, they beat him to onion pieces. The three rejoiced, thinking they had finally defeated the killer doll. Jake and Devin's relationship grew stronger, culminating in a passionate kiss. Life returned to normal. Jake's aunt continued her therapy, complaining about her husband's pressure on their son. Unbeknownst to them, she had cancer and little time left, hoping to give her family more love in her remaining days. In a flashback of decades ago, a bar was buzzing with energy. A bar girl with a bow in her hair was aggressively flirting with a man who found her too forward and rejected her hormone advance. This scene was witnessed by an adult Chucky. After the man left, Chucky approached the bar girl, ready to give her an unforgettable night. They found Nika, who was drinking alone, and went to a motel. As the three were about to engage in a tryst, Chucky, holding a knife, hesitated to kill Nika, who showed no fear and even urged him on. Instead, Chucky turned the knife on the terrified bar girl, stabbing her and sending her to the bar party in heaven. Nika, instead of screaming, joined in, stabbing the woman. Covered in blood, they engaged in a passionate frenzy. Back to the present. At the same hotel, a man is tied to a chair, watching two women wrestle their muscles. Nearby, a male corpse lies on the floor. After the intense scene, the older, less attractive Nika leaves to eat, leaving the sinister woman, Tiffany, to flirt with the man. She initially cuts the man with a knife, but the next second she sees the blood and collapses to the ground, looking around in terror, as if she has become a different person. She apologizes to the man and unties the gag from his mouth. She seems in disbelief when she learns she has just killed someone. It turns out, when Chucky slaughtered her entire family, he framed her for the crime. Despite her constant explanations, no one believed her, and she was sent to a mental institution. 2 weeks ago, Chucky found her again and performed a spell, splitting his soul into several fragments, one of which was residing within her. Unfortunately, the man was confused by her story. After being untied, he punched Tiffany, causing her to revert to Chucky's consciousness. Naturally, the man was then killed, his throat slashed and diabetic blood splattering everywhere. In response to a series of recent murders, the mayor held a community meeting. The three friends decided to reveal the truth about Chucky to the public. However, such a bizarre story was unlikely to be believed. For example, Junior's disappearance, when Lexi told her the truth, not only did she not believe her, but she also scolded her for being too childish. Devin's officer mom announced a curfew starting today, and then invited the school principal to speak. Instead, only the principal's head appeared, causing an uproar. Chucky pulled back the curtain, revealing the headless principal sitting in a chair giving a thumbs up. The three friends were terrified. Apparently, Chucky had used sorcery to transfer his soul into a new doll. This was far from over. Elsewhere, a man and a woman armed with guns conducted a census in a household. They made an excuse to have the children bring out their toy collection, among which was Chucky. Seeing the man, Chucky pulled out a knife, but the man quickly drew his gun and shot Chucky in the head, following up with several more shots to ensure Chucky was completely destroyed. It's then revealed that the pair were actually patients who had escaped from a mental institution. In reality, they weren't insane. They had encountered Chucky's evil as children, and no one believed their truth, leading them to be labeled as mentally ill. Since then, they had been seeking revenge, hunting down fragments of Chucky's soul wherever they could find them. They even kept one of Chucky's heads locked in a safe, torturing it for 4 years, illustrating the depth of their hatred. Back in the town, fear continued to spread. One day, Devon's officer mom arrived at the school and arrested the biology teacher for the principal's murder. Devon and his two friends, who knew the truth, tried to explain but were ignored. The three realized that there must be something wrong with the new doll, but with Chucky missing, they were at a loss. Even if they told the truth, no one would believe them. Devon had a sudden idea and mentioned a man named Andy, who had been claiming since the 1980s that Chucky was the killer. If they could find Andy, he might be able to help. Back at the hotel, Nika was dealing with a corpse. As she worked, blood splashed onto the now Chucky-possessed woman, causing her to revert to Tiffany's consciousness. Back in 1987, Chucky and Nika had become a notorious killer duo. One day, they went to the countryside to buy a car, leaving no survivors wherever they went. It was during this time that Nika discovered Chucky's habit of reading witchcraft books. The memory fades, and the two begin to play cards. However, Nika notices Tiffany biting her fingers, a telltale sign that she is not Chucky at the moment. Nika discreetly stabs Tiffany's leg with a knife, but she shows no reaction due to her paralysis. Despite being found out, Tiffany seems timid, but Nika admits she prefers her over Chucky. Nika, still in the small town, bought a house and planned to live with Tiffany as a couple. She then knocks Tiffany out with a frying pan. When Tiffany wakes up, she is tied up in a new house, which turns out to be her old home, the very place where Chucky had slaughtered her family in the past. On the other side, Junior's mother reveals she has a terminal illness, plunging the family into sorrow. Junior begins to cherish his time with his mother, accompanying her to see a psychiatrist. Just as she starts to accept her fate and prepare for a peaceful end, Chucky appears out of nowhere and pushes her out of a window with a cart, causing her to fall right in front of Junior. Everyone believes Junior's mother killed herself to avoid burdening the family, but Jake knows Chucky is responsible. He and Devon start searching for Andy's phone number and discover that Andy is the mysterious man who previously called to warn Jake. Persistence pays off, and Jake finally contacts Andy, who is the same man who killed Chucky before. Andy tells them not to actively seek Chucky. He will appear when people are vulnerable and in familiar places. If they can't find him, Chucky will target their families. The trio decides to set a trap for Chucky before Andy arrives. Following tactics from the movies, they lock all doors and windows and tie a doll to the doors and windows with strings. If Chucky appears, the doll will move without wind. Lexi waits in Jake's room while the other two stay in the living room. Soon enough, the doll starts to move. They search the house, but the broken cups and lit stove are just distractions. Suddenly, the lights go out, and Chucky appears behind Lexi, offering to spare her if she kills Jake. During the standoff, Jake quietly approaches, but Chucky notices just in time, slashing Jake's leg and running outside, only to be ambushed and electrocuted by Devon. Chucky grabs a knife and dashes downstairs. As the trio pursues, Devon's officer mom suddenly appears but is tackled by Chucky, falling down the stairs and breaking her neck. Chucky escapes the house, leaving the three in anguish over Devon's mom's death. The scene shifts to Jake, Junior, and Devon gathering at Junior's mother's funeral. They were still determined to fight back and stop Chucky's evil deeds. However, Lexi was now under house arrest, and Devon, traumatized by witnessing his mother's death, had become hesitant. It turned out that Chucky had tipped off Devon's mom about her son's whereabouts that night, intending for him to witness his mother's death firsthand. Devon suggested they split up to avoid being caught all at once, making any proactive action against Chucky impossible. An angry Junior blamed Jake for everything. His ex-girlfriend tried to intervene, but Junior, consumed with jealousy, punched Jake. Junior's father quickly put a stop to the fight. Just then, a plump woman arrived in a car, offered her condolences to Junior's mother, and casually kissed Junior's father before driving away heavily, leaving the kids stunned. Meanwhile, Andy was still on his way to the small town. While refueling, he ditched his partner, deciding to continue alone. He had a premonition that this would be the final battle and expected it to be extremely brutal. The next day, Jake visited Devon, only to find out that Devon, out of fear, had decided to leave town to escape the chaos. Elsewhere, Junior questioned his father about the plump woman's identity. The father didn't know, assuming that she was a friend of his wife. This dismissive answer frustrated Junior. As he returned to his room, Chucky was there waiting for him. Chucky started to manipulate Junior, reminding him about his mother's terminal illness and his father's infidelity, even mentioning the kiss at the funeral. This fueled Junior's hatred, but he still couldn't bring himself to kill. So Chucky turned his hatred into jealousy, telling him that Jake was just as cowardly. To prove he was better than Jake, Junior grabbed a knife, ready to act. At nightfall, Jake began packing his things, believing that if he left, the chaos might end. Junior, holding a knife, watched him from the shadows. Devin was also packing, but he wasn't afraid or planning to leave town. He had discovered Chucky's old house address and decided to go there alone to avenge his mother. This house was the same one Nika had just bought, where she was holding Tiffany captive. Late at night, Nika visited Junior's house, boasting about her relationship with his father, further confirming Junior's suspicions of his father's affair. Meanwhile, as Jake was about to get into his car, he saw a delivery man with a Chucky doll. He hurriedly bought the doll from the man, thinking it was another fragment of Chucky's soul, but was disappointed when it wasn't. Jake then took the doll to Lexi, and upon checking the address, they realized it was the same as Devin's location, Chucky's old house. Devin had already broken in and freed Tiffany, unaware that she was now possessed and controlled by Chucky. She used a taser to knock him out. When Devin woke up, he was shocked to see countless Chucky dolls neatly lined up, filling the entire room. Jake and Lexi planned to go help Devin. While waiting for a taxi, Lexi told Jake that tomorrow, the mayor planned to gather the media for a charity event. They also wondered why Chucky, who didn't need help to kill, kept manipulating others to do his bidding. Danger was quietly approaching. Simultaneously, Junior's father woke up and found his son. Chucky, no longer hiding, mocked the man, comparing him to his dead brother, calling them both worthless drunks. Oblivious, Junior's father thought the doll's voice was coming from Junior. He tried to grab the doll but was pushed to the ground. Enraged, the man accused Junior of being as cowardly as his mother, who had taken her own life. Junior's heart was shattered by his father. Using Chucky as a weapon, Junior brutally attacked his father, killing his own father in the process and completing the first step of Chucky's plan. As Junior stuffed the body into the storage room, the back doorbell rang. Andy arrived, but he was too late. Junior had already fallen into darkness. Junior lied, saying Chucky had been taken away by his father for a date with his girlfriend. Although Andy was skeptical, a thorough search revealed nothing unusual, so he left reluctantly, allowing Chucky, who was hiding in the toilet, to escape. Meanwhile, Jake and his friend were still puzzling over why Chucky was manipulating children to kill. Suddenly, they heard Chucky's voice at the door, making them scream. The next moment, a gunshot rang out, and Chucky was shot in the head. Andy's partner arrived to explain the situation. It turned out there were originally 3 Chucky dolls, and the one Jake had brought back was the last. If Chucky managed to make an innocent child commit murder, he would gain evil energy to create more duplicates. That explains why he kept indulging innocent people to murder. Realizing Devin was in danger, Jake wanted to rush to his rescue, but Andy's partner had already drugged their water to ensure their safety. She put them to sleep and decided to handle everything herself. When Nika returned home to inject Tiffany with a needle, Tiffany, controlled by Chucky, overpowered Nika and prepared to kill her. Because if the injection succeeded, Chucky's consciousness would be sealed. At some point, Junior and Chucky arrived to stop her. However, their next plan required Nika's participation, so Chucky temporarily restrained his killing intent. Chucky's army had formed due to Junior's patricide. Junior saw Devin tied up, but he had already been so manipulated that he felt no emotion. Soon, the Chucky army was sent worldwide, with the sole mission of killing everyone except children under 5. As the dolls were dispatched, Chucky and his duplicates reveled in their murderous exploits. Nika, feeling neglected and jealous of Chucky's constant mockery, retaliated fiercely, slapping Tiffany back to her original form. Seeing this imperfect vessel, Chucky ordered Nika to kill her to avoid compromising their plan. But Nika had grown fond of the gentle Tiffany and hesitated. Chucky then commanded Junior to do it, threatening to kill all 3 if he refused. As Junior prepared to strike, Nika preemptively decapitated Chucky. Junior wanted to help Chucky, but Nika offered to take care of the body and take Junior away, so he momentarily gave up resistance. Nika then picked up Chucky's severed head, venting her frustration. She revealed that she had grown to despise Chucky since 1988, when he would kill for fun while she was away and treat her coldly. One night, she reported him to the police, leading to his pursuit and transformation into a doll. Only now did Chucky learn the truth, and for the first time, his calm demeanor turned to rage as he vowed to return and torment her to death. Unfazed, Nika knew that without her, the next phase of the plan couldn't proceed. She casually tossed Chucky's head aside, set up bombs in the house to welcome Andy, and left. Headless, Chucky tried to kill Devin, but Andy arrived just in time to destroy Chucky and free Devin. However, Andy's partner triggered the trap outside and set off the bomb. The next morning, Jake and his friend awoke to news of the explosion, deeply distressed. When Jake visited Devin's house to mourn his friend, Devin appeared and they shared an emotional embrace. Devin had escaped just before the explosion. Though Andy and his partner's fate was uncertain, it seemed dire. Sharing their information, Jake realized that Chucky would target the day's charity event. As Jake suspected, the mayor used the movie premiere to gather the media, inviting a celebrity guest who turned out to be Nika. Meanwhile, Junior and Chucky led Lexi backstage, keeping her from seeing the truckload of Chucky dolls. These dolls, disguised as Nika's private collection, were to be distributed to children worldwide under the guise of the charity event. Even Caroline took advantage of the opportunity to grab a Chucky doll. The movie screening part of the event started soon, setting the stage for a massacre. When Lexi's father arrived, the Chucky doll next to Caroline sprang into action. The mayor, having gone to buy popcorn, narrowly escaped harm, but Lexi's father wasn't as fortunate. When the mayor returned, she found her husband vomiting blood, already dead. Her screams echoed through the theater as Chucky began his killing spree, taking lives one after another. People frantically fled for their shitty lives amidst the chaos. The mayor was pushed and knocked unconscious while Caroline calmly continued watching the movie. Not long after, Jake and his friend arrived. Devin took Caroline out of the theater, leaving Jake to face Chucky alone. Jake had been training for this moment. At the crucial moment, he unleashed his primal strength, knocking Chucky down and kicking away his knife. Finally, Jake used his bare hands to crush Chucky. Meanwhile, terrified by the screams, Lexi remained frozen. Junior and Chucky approached her, trying to persuade her to join their ranks and be with Junior forever. However, she stood her ground and tried to reason with Junior, much to Chucky's disgust. At the critical moment, Junior, choosing to protect his girlfriend, turned the knife on Chucky, sacrificing himself in the process and taking down Chucky's duplicate with him. The three friends reunited at the theater entrance, exhausted by the day's events. Just when things seemed bleak, Andy appeared, having intercepted the truck transporting the dolls. Nika watched the truck drive away in helpless rage. However, a female doll hidden in the truck bed aimed a gun at Andy, signaling that the story was far from over. Back at the hotel, Nika, fearing that Tiffany might transform into Chucky and turn against her, cruelly amputated her limbs to keep her by her side forever. In the aftermath, the innocent teacher was released. The friends visited the cemetery to mourn their lost loved ones, offering each other comfort. Although Andy and his partner had fallen short, the new generation of Chucky fighters was ready. They were determined to win the ultimate battle between good and evil. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.